Soy Roberta Nido, presidente de la Federación Argentina de Enfermedades Poco Frecuentes, FADEPOF. Comencé hace 20 años la odisea de llegar al diagnóstico de mi hija Micaela, quien finalmente fue diagnosticado en el año 2001. Cuando se recibe el diagnóstico de alguna de estas enfermedades poco frecuentes, no es tan fácil de aceptar y adecuar la vida diaria. El impacto de ese diagnóstico no solo es en un integrante de la familia, sino en toda la familia en su conjunto. Vivir con una enfermedad poco frecuente como familia es enfrentarse diariamente a desafíos muy grandes que comprometen todos los aspectos de la vida humana. Como población con vulnerabilidades crecientes, las personas que viven con una enfermedad poco frecuente se ven afectadas de manera desproporcionada por el estigma, la discriminación y la marginación social dentro de su entorno social y en la sociedad en general. La escasez de conocimientos y de experiencia sobre las enfermedades poco frecuentes, sumado a la falta de conciencia de los desafíos que enfrentan las personas que viven con una enfermedad poco frecuente, da como resultado una gran vulnerabilidad en lo psicológico, social, cultural y económico.
Hello, my name is Mark Yale and I live in Ventura, California in the United States. I was diagnosed with mucous membrane pemphigoid in 2007 while living in Colorado. They caused uncertainty, fear, and anxiety for me and my family as I lost my eyesight, became partially blind, lost my career and professional life, and wondered if I would ever be a productive part of society again. Having a rare disease affects people well beyond just their healthcare. Like all people that are diagnosed with rare diseases, I was not prepared for the challenges that came with my disease, like the loss of employment and accessing stable work, the financial hardship, difficulty accessing appropriate healthcare, and just the stigma of being a person living with a rare disease.
Hello, my name is Baib Ziemel. I am from Latvia and I have von Willebrand disease. Our family went through a very sad situation. My sister had a baby, and despite knowing that she has von Willebrand's, doctors could not prepare a treatment plan for her delivery. It is important because our risks for bleeding at childbirth or after that are 10 times higher than the average. My sister was very close to dying from a bleed exactly a month after having a baby. 1/3 of women with bleeding disorders in Europe chose not to have children. We are afraid that we will not get the medical care and the society will point to us because our children can inherit the disease. I have no kids and now it's probably too late. I'm nearly 40. I thought I will live fast and die young.
My name is Patricia Karani. I am the Regional Patient Advocate for Hereditary Angioedema International, and I'm a patient living with a rare and life-threatening condition called hereditary angioedema. And these swellings that were triggered by hormones, as well as stress and anxiety associated with examinations, brought about a lot of challenges in my schoolwork. I found myself having to sit out 5 days of swelling while the rest of my friends were busy studying. This brought issues with the school management, who even suggested I look for another school which can accommodate me. This saddened me because I liked my school, I liked my teachers, and I liked my friends. I ended up trying my best to survive in this school, and I got above average marks. This condition made me have to adopt a career change. So being an architect or interior designer was a lost dream for me.
So let me tell you my story. I'm Giske Wehr. I'm almost 55 years old and I live in a very rural part of Germany. In 1996, right after his birth, they took away my son and brought him away with an ambulance. 3 hours later, when I came into the ICU at the university hospital, the doctors gave me a Polaroid with the remark, "If you won't survive, you will at least have a picture." My son suffers from a rare skin disorder. It's not life-threatening. Families giving birth to a child with a chronic rare disease have to make their farewell to a healthy child, to a normal life, to all their plans. They might not know yet, but they will have to fight for the rights of their child for the rest of their life. We had the problem that neither kindergarten nor primary school really wanted to take him. It took me months of effortful persuasion until he finally was admitted. In academic high school, the headmaster told me, children like that are not able to follow the classes, and therefore he should better visit a school for children with special needs. I insisted, but the faculty meeting decided to reject him. For him, this was really hard. His friends didn't have any of these difficulties. They chose a school and were accepted. And there's a lot more than just the medical side for people living with rare diseases. The systems have to be adjusted all over the world, even in Germany. A UN resolution would help to shape policies in favor of families living with rare diseases. For our disease, we need quality education, social inclusion, and equal opportunities in all schools.
Hello, my name is Rahul Viparthi. I am a father to a 14-year-old child with a rare disease called tuberous sclerosis complex. In many cases, one of the spouses stays back in the home to homeschool and take care of the child. This deprives the spouse of a productive life in the society. This deprivation of a job and its money adds to the financial burden of the family. The parents also suffer for not being able to participate in social events. Such unintentional social discrimination and isolation cause a great mental burden to the individuals with TSC and their families. The mental stress caused on the family rarely gets addressed. Because of the lack of social sensitization and proper education, the TSC individuals are left behind in the social and economic prospects. It is a tragedy that children who could have a bright future and live a productive life in the society are being left behind because of such gaps.
Hello, my name is Avril Daly. I am the CEO of Retina International, and I'm the Vice President of EURORDIS. I'm also a person living with a rare eye disease known as retinitis pigmentosa, or RP for short. I made decisions that I may not have otherwise made on where I lived, what I chose to study eventually, and on family planning and other more very important decisions for a young person. In the case of young children, the burden on parents is enormous. 64% of carers are actually mothers, carers for people living with rare diseases. Mothers and fathers study law in order to be able to fight for basic human rights of their children. And these are the very lucky ones. You can only imagine how those already disadvantaged by poverty and other social inequalities are affected.
Hello, my name is Sharifa and I'm from Kuwait. In 2015, my son was diagnosed with a rare disease called spinal muscular atrophy. Children like Nasser have great potential and should not be dismissed or marginalized. Inclusion is not just for education, but for all aspects of everyday life. I would like to draw particular attention to how the pandemic has affected us as a family. The isolation and fear that a lot have experienced the past year and a half is something we were already living in pre-pandemic. So imagine what this pandemic has done to us in terms of fear and isolation.
This UN resolution is not on rare diseases. It is a UN resolution on addressing the challenges of the persons living with rare disease and their families. And that makes a huge difference, as we will see through the presentation. So who we are, we represent the civil society. EURORDIS is on the right, is the European Alliance of patient groups of persons living with rare diseases. So EURORDIS brings together 900 patient groups from all over Europe. On the left, you have Rare Disease International, which is the global alliance of organizations. So that's the global movement that brings the national alliances for rare disease from around the world. The committee of the Conference of NGOs in consultative relationship with the UN is the NGO Committee for Rare Disease that was established by a group of NGOs, members from ECOSOC, including ourselves, as a vehicle for us to promote rare disease within the UN system.
why do we want a UN resolution at the UN in New York? The impact of going through life living with a rare disease goes far beyond only health concerns, and it affects the whole family and loved ones. Persons living with a rare disease experience stigma, discrimination, lack of visibility, and lack of recognition in society. I would like to give you a snapshot of all the different challenges of going through life with a rare disease, making the link with the most relevant sustainable development goals. It starts very early. So when we're talking about a child with a rare disease, families face difficulties immediately to find a structure that is adapted for the children with a rare disease of all ages, from kindergarten, later in school, high school, university. Integration is difficult and at times impossible in the mainstream educational systems, as was just explained by my colleagues just before. So the rights of these children, teenagers and young adults are not respected, and inequalities in terms of equal opportunities and social exclusion, well, inequality in terms of inclusion, I would say, strike very early in life. Also, when we talk about poverty, the entire family is impacted by these challenges. And this causes an overall increased impoverishment of families because, of course, there are more expenses related to supporting the family member with the rare disease and less income because, as we heard, parents and carers they have to either stop working entirely or significantly reduce their working hours to start caring and support the persons with the rare disease. And very often, these are the women, the mothers. And here we come to gender equality. Women do experience gender inequality. They do experience more discrimination, either as a person with the rare disease themselves or as mothers of children with a rare disease. We have testimonies from real life that show that women are disproportionately stigmatized and marginalized. It's a real issue. Also, when it comes to SDG 8 about decent work, young adults, when they have to start working, and adults and less young adults, they experience difficulty with every step within an independent living. So it starts with finding or keeping or returning to their work, but also it's very difficult for a person living with the rare disease to find a loan, to get a loan for any type of life's project. It is, of course, also particularly challenging to have a social life, a sentimental life, or planning a family when it's possible. In addition to all of these social difficulties, of course, persons with the rare disease also face the challenges that are more directly related to mental and physical well-being. There is the psychological well-being. So psychological despair is, of course, aggravated in the absence of a diagnosis or in the absence of an understanding of what's happening. A disease with no name is particularly difficult to live with. There is also the lack to appropriate care, whether the care is specifically medical care, but also very importantly, social care. Indeed, treatments that are approved, they are approved only for 5% of the more than 6,000 rare diseases. That means that social support is essential and is the only thing available for persons that are living with the other 95% of the identified rare diseases. And there is also, and here I'm addressing specifically to SDG number 9 about innovation, there is lack of innovation and research on these diseases. Of course, obviously, this creates a lot of inequalities. And with COVID-19, as Durhan was underlining, all of the pre-existent inequalities and the vulnerabilities of our community have been severely aggravated in every one of their aspects. Poverty, of course, social exclusion, decent work, gender inequality, etc. So the motto, leave no one behind, which is at the core, at the very center of Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals, is particularly fit for purpose for persons living with the rare disease who are at greater risk to be left behind in building back a more inclusive society for all. Based on all of these challenges, we consulted with our members, our broader network, and several experts, and 5 key overarching asks have emerged, each of them comprising of more detailed asks, and this is what you will see in the 0 draft that will be circulated, as Sharifa was saying, in the coming weeks. So these 5 key asks cover these 5 themes. So civil society is calling for inclusion and participation in society for the respect of human rights of persons living with a rare disease. We are also calling for appropriate care, social care, also medical care within the commitment already taken by member states around universal health coverage, and also greater international cooperation. We are also calling for national action. That means to adopt or to implement specific plans or strategies to leave no one behind at national level. The third key ask is about inclusion in the UN system, in the different agencies and programs. And also importantly, we are asking to monitor the progress and to produce a report on the status of persons living with a rare disease on a regular basis. What we did after proposing these 5 key asks is that we went back to our community with these 5 key asks, and we have asked the following question. What impact would a UN resolution based on these 5 key asks have, in your opinion, on the global community? And there has been great enthusiasm. There has been a lot. I mean, our members had a lot to say, and this is just a cloud of the words that were mainly used. And as you can see, it talks about visibility. It talks about solidarity. It talks about inclusion and opportunities. It talks about development, social development. It talks about Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. In a nutshell, it talks about hope. So we clustered all of the feedback, all of the different quotes that were sent to us. We cluster all of this feedback per theme. And the first theme that is really, the first one, the most important one, the most immediate one, is about visibility. A UN resolution would create an improved visibility and help raise awareness on this issue, because most people in the world cannot even imagine the daily challenges of living with a rare disease. It would be a way to say we are here and we exist. The second theme is that a UN resolution would contribute to the work of the UN and would contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and support the rights of persons living with a rare disease. A UN resolution would support the development of plans and strategies that are inclusive of persons living with a rare disease at national level. Also, a UN resolution would support the inclusion of particularly vulnerable segments of the population. Indeed, living with a rare disease is one of the many ways people are discriminated, and sometimes it adds up to other vulnerabilities. So it would support a call for equity. And last, a UN resolution would encourage international collaboration, networking, and sharing of best practices. And this is really to reduce the existing inequalities.
We are looking at it from the point of view of a health issue, but because, as we all know, rare diseases is much more than that. Rare disease is a social issue, it's an economic issue, it's a gender issue, it's an equity issue, it's a human rights issue. And having this resolution and putting the resolution forth will actually give us a great opportunity to really bring in all of the support from the United Nations, but also calling upon all nations to really support rare diseases as that broad societal issue.